All right, here we go.
I'll be able to share my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it's on there. And then
Well,
Kelly, I'll switch the slides for you.
Perfect. Sounds
um,
good.
Yep.
thank you folks for jumping on this afternoon. I see some people are still joining, so I'll give it just a few seconds and then I'll get us started here. All righty. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for carving some time out of the beginning of your school year to spend some time with us this afternoon. I'm very excited to have this conversation. My name is John Glasgow. I am the program director for the Rural Illinois CTE Project at the Association of Illinois Rural and Small Schools. And today we are going to be talking about an incredibly important aspect of CTE in rural spaces that historically has been underinvested in. But hopefully by the end, we'll have a chance to learn about some frameworks and some methods for helping structure these middle grades CTE experiences. So this is developing career education opportunities in the middle grades. Just a little bit of overview to get started here. Please feel free to throw your name in the chat, who you are, where you're from, and the district that you're at. Just introduce yourself. If possible, we invite you to have your cameras on. We love to see your faces, especially someone who presents virtually quite often. It's always nice to know that there are living beings on the other side of the screen there. Please keep yourself on mute until Q&A. I do have everybody on mute by default, but if you happen to hit that button, please remute yourself just to make sure that we have some clear listening and recording for this. This event has been expanded to offer professional development hours for Illinois educators. So shortly, I'll be including a link to a form in the chat. You will need to go through that form to sign in and sign out to get your professional development hours to count. So please be on the lookout for that. And lastly, even though we'll be on mute, please add your thoughts and reactions and questions to the chat. I will be monitoring it and keeping track of things that folks have to say. So just a little bit of background about who the heck I am and why we're doing this. This is the first of a series of quarterly webinars hosted by AIRS and the Rural CTE Project. So AIRS is the only statewide organization in Illinois dedicated to elevating the voice of rural schools. We do policy advocacy and collaborative partnerships at all levels, from local up to national, as the Illinois affiliate of the National Rural Education Association. If you know me at all, you know I love maps. And so this is a map of every rural district in Illinois. There's 489 of us, and there's 851 public school districts in Illinois. So it's about 50%, 57% of all school districts in Illinois are rural. And our work is really guided by voice, access, and leadership. And so a case in point for that is the Rural Illinois Career Tech Ed Project. It is a partnership between AIRS, the Illinois State Board of Education, and ROE 26 to review the resource needs and equity gaps of rural career tech ed programming. We really viewed this as a unique chance for rural schools to voice their needs, challenges, and successes. And the way that we're doing that is sort of two fronts. On the back end, we do research. So we're trying to understand the difficulties with building pathways for career connection for students. And then we offer technical assistance, networking, or tools and resources like this webinar. So this is one way that we are doing this work. So a little bit about today's conversation. Like I started out with, middle grades and early access to career, exploration or experiences we know is essential for helping students long-term self-efficacy and finding themselves in a career pathway and really using all those opportunities they have at high school and beyond to find their professional footing. But what we have learned here at the CT project from statewide research is sort of the two graphs you see here. That general career and vocational exploration across all rural schools is one of the least offered opportunities for students. And among the different types of districts in the state, elementary districts, only about 23% even offer anything to do with career tech ed. And even though unit districts have a pretty high percentage of offering CTE, when you pair that with the fact that high school districts are also pretty high, you get the sense that it's really only those upper grades, the high school grades, that have access to robust career exploration and experiences. And so, with today's conversation, I had the chance to invite our guests to really speak about how we can help rural districts build that platform and some early tools to do it. So today's crew, unfortunately, you have me, so I'm so sorry about that. I'm kicking us all off. I'm the program director, like I said. But first off, we have two friends from the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, Kim Carando, and a little bit about Kim here. So Kim is the Assistant Director of College Access and Outreach at ISAC. She has been with ISAC since 2011 and has held several positions, including creating professional development around the PACE framework when the legislation passed in 2016. In her current role, she serves as the project director for the Illinois Gear Up grant, providing resources to middle and high schools in rural areas across the state. And with her is her colleague, Kelly Kippel. Kelly is the Rural Outreach Specialist at the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, where she's been in 2016. She started with the ISA Core Community Worker in Central Illinois. In 2019, she became a part of the specialist team, where she develops middle school curriculum and works on implementation of the Illinois PACE framework across the state. And last but not least, we also have Colleen Ross from LearningBlade. Colleen is a former classroom teacher herself and now the Illinois manager for LearningBlade, which supports educators in bringing STEM, computer science, and CT resources into middle school classrooms. With a master's in equity in education and certifications in multilingual and special education, she's empowering teachers to create inclusive, engaging learning experiences and to expand access to STEM career exploration. So why don't we get started with our friends over at ISAC? So Kim and Kelly, I'm going to turn it to you guys to take it over.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to get the slides going. Okay, looks like that's working for you guys. Okay, you guys can see the screen, right? Yeah, okay, good.
I cannot see the screen, but am I the only one? Oh, there, it just popped up.
We're good now.
Okay, it just popped up that y'all can see it. Okay, great. So my name is Kim Carando. I have been with ISAC for a while, as John reviewed, which I very much appreciate. I'm happy to be here this afternoon to present with Kelly. We're going to talk about the work that we've been doing with the middle school PACE curriculum. I'm going to review it and go over some context for you all, and then Kelly's going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the specific lessons, the different content that we cover, and then we'll go into really some things that provide the career exploration piece as well. So I'll go ahead and get started with the PACE framework overall. Some of you may be more familiar with the original PACE framework that came out for 8th to 12th. That was the one that was passed back in 2016. And we now do have a specific middle school framework that, if you're familiar with the high school framework, you would know that the domains there are career, post-secondary, and financial literacy. When we put together the benchmarks for this middle school framework, we really wanted it to be based more on developmental objectives. So you will also notice that the domains for the middle school framework are quite a bit different than those for the high school framework. So here we're going to focus on aspiration, planning, and self-advocacy. So it's organized in the same way, but the goals of the middle school framework are a little bit different than the goals of the high school framework. So definitely wanted to kind of provide that context from the beginning. And then I wanted to get to a little bit more about how we arrived at creating these domains specifically, and then the different kinds of lessons and resources that we have for students to really expand on making sure that they're addressing these different domains. So around the time that we started working on this, we partnered with Mandy Savitz-Romer, and then Susan M. Buffard wrote this book called Ready, Willing, and Able about a developmental approach to college access and success. So they really outline these 5 different developmental stages that you'll see listed here that we've then included in the domains that are part of the middle school PACE framework. So this book was written quite a while ago, but we found that the structure of the developmental stages are still extremely relevant to students today. And they did a great job of really categorizing the different things that students need to do in these different stages. I will say too, if you've read the book or if you're familiar, they really talk a little bit more about older students, high school students. I know for sure that Mandy was a high school counselor at one point, so she kind of based the book on her experiences doing that. And then we really, when we received our first Gear Up grant back in 2016, we had some requests for classroom lessons around these different kind of developmental objectives. So we really pulled the concepts down to the middle school level. And you'll see as Kelly starts going through the lessons that the results are what came from applying these concepts to younger students. So, getting a little bit more into specifics in the aspiration category, this is where we really include from the book the categories of envisioning and believing, meaning that we really want students to aspire to whatever they plan to do after high school, right? So, we say post secondary because it can mean a 4-year degree, 2-year certificate, trade school. It can mean all kinds of different things for students. But the goal here is really for them to develop self awareness and then to really start to form that identity that is consistent with post-secondary success. So not that they need to have the path figured out at that point, but they need to be able to envision themselves as a future student or in that future career, and then also believe that they have the skill set and the confidence to get there. So the lessons that you'll see as Kelly reviews them, we've categorized them all into different areas so you can see which one of these it addresses. And so specifically the aspirational ones would be to really go towards those envisioning and believing and start to really develop that identity. And then, like I said, we have some examples of the lessons. Each one has the PACE domain as well as the ready, willing, and able domain designed so that the facilitator can specifically see the type of content that's in the lesson without having to do a full deep dive. So we'll have an example of what that looks like towards the end as well. Okay, so then the next category is for planning. This is for the ready, willing, and able categories of aiming and organizing. This is where students really start to explore some of their habits, whether they're good or bad, things that can maybe like positive study skills that they have, and really start to look more into that and how that can help them. Or if they do have some bad habits, maybe some distractions that keep them from getting their schoolwork done, we really want them to start we really want through the curriculum to start those conversations with them so that they can really start to think about how that applies to their own individual experience. So it really is individualized on that level. And the idea behind this is once they start to doing these things and addressing areas where they could maybe improve or areas where they have strengths, then they're really more likely to succeed at a post-secondary level because they've nailed down those study skills, planning, they're highly organized. So really all of these lessons are around helping students build those skills to where they feel very confident in the planning stages of whatever they decide to do after high school and within high school as well. Okay, so then the final domain here is the self-advocacy domain. And this is where we really start to encourage students to self-advocate for themselves and think about the different things that they need to succeed and what that means for them. So and Kelly will go in more depth into this, but one of the lessons that we have is for them to, we realize that students do really well if they hear about another student's experience and think, how could this student self-advocate? What would that look like? So rather than making it about them personally, having a really strong scenario and case study for them to review of this is what I would do if I were this student, those types of things. So and in addition to that, we start to really help them work on what does mentorship look like? If you decide that you would like to have a mentor, how do you identify someone in your life who maybe could play that role? And really making those connections as far as starting to network and thinking about things in that way. Again, realizing middle school is a little bit young for things like that, but also it's never too early, we don't think, to start bringing up those terms. Students might not have heard the term mentor before. They may not know what networking means. So even if you're not necessarily having them do those things, we found that one of the main things that's really important within the middle school PACE framework is to do a lot of defining of different terms that they're going to be hearing just as a starting point to make sure all students are at an equal level. They all understand the different things that they can strive towards and how to get there, and really understand the concepts that we're talking about in the lessons beyond the actual lessons themselves. Okay, so those are the three domains. I did just kind of want to reiterate that the idea behind the middle school framework is that once students get to the high school level and start to engage with the PACE framework for high school, that folks are probably more familiar with because it's been around for longer. The idea is that they've gone through these lessons as middle school students, and once they get to high school, they already know all these terms like I just mentioned, and then also are very familiar with what is career exploration. They've been introduced to post-secondary options so that once they get to really having to make these decisions, we're not starting from scratch in 8th grade or 9th grade. We've already really laid the foundation for them to understand some of these things at a very early age. Okay, and then I'm going to hand it over to Kelly. She's going to start going over some of the specific lessons, but just to provide some context on how the curriculum is structured, I'll let y'all kind of read that top part, but really the idea behind it was to be very flexible and adaptable to the classroom setting. So as I mentioned, this really started as part of our original Gear Up grant. We had some schools that wanted to present this as a class, but as you can imagine, there is not a lot of classroom time always available for these things. So we didn't want to make it super structured where, these certain lessons have to be done in this order and in this way. We wanted to make it flexible for the schools and the facilitator to make it as easy as possible for them to integrate into the school day. So the idea here is, and again, Kelly's going to kind of be going over specifically the anchor lessons here. Those are the most comprehensive lessons that go over a certain concept. And then say, for example, a facilitator wanted to introduce the anchor lesson at the beginning of the week and do 3 additional lessons to really expand on those concepts. They could essentially pick any of the 3 that maybe fits well with the group of students they're working with the amount of time that they have, and expand on those concepts. So maybe they'll want to have a discussion with students and then follow that up with a making lessons where students get some hands-on experience thinking more deeply about the concept they've been talking about. So it's super flexible in that way. We do have a few lesson sets that need to be done in a specific order, but we intentionally line that out. So that's not something the facilitator has to figure out on their own. So, and at the end, we will go into a little bit more about how to access the curriculum. But for right now, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly so she can go into a little more in depth of the anchor lessons for each grade level.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Kim. Like she said, my name is Kelly Keppel. For what we have today, it's really a much briefer, of course, overview of the lesson since we're shorter on time. I'll kind of go through them a little quickly. Before each lesson set, there is always going to be this overview of how all of them are set up. So for 6th grade, they link back to the Ready, Willing, Able benchmarks that Kim had mentioned earlier. So for aspiration, they need to, students should be supported and exposed to be able to explore their interest. For planning, they should practice their strengths. For self-advocacy, they develop their confidence, their abilities. Each of these lessons, or all of the lessons, will be linked to either one of the benchmarks and then one of the PACE frameworks, or one of the Ready, Willing, and Able benchmarks. So you'll see that here on the next slide. I will just briefly go over one of the 6th grade lessons. So like you can see on top, each of them has the anchor lesson and it has the little anchor symbol letting you know that's the main lesson for the whole set. You'll have aspiration, and on the end is a little aspiration sign showing you that's that benchmark that it goes with for Ready, Will, and Able. You can see it's envisioning for that, and then the actual PACE benchmark is the aspiration, information about careers, an example of a wide range of careers. So for this lesson called Exploring Your Career Endeavors, we really want students just to get a feel for what different careers are, maybe just branch out and learn more about them. So what they really get to do is they are get to reflect and discuss the different skills that make up what they might be interested in. So each of these lessons are really trying to gear towards just allowing students to like aspire to be what they might want to be. Because in 6th grade, a lot of students just don't even know really, what careers are out there, what's available to them, what they might be interested in. So we really try to gear 6th grade into really like exploratory, like trying to get their brains, like their gears working onto what college could be for them and what post-secondary could mean otherwise as well. The next lesson we have is strengthen our stories. Kim kind of briefly mentioned this one before. What this one is that each student will have different asset cards and then scenario cards. So what you'll do is the student reads a scenario card and they have to try to match up what that scenario is describing with an asset. So they each is like a matching, so you can see maybe they might not totally know what empathy is, but once they read the scenario and they can read the definition, it will help them really correlate those, and they'll get to learn those terms. They get to learn how they might envision themselves using those. This one again is for planning, and it's for the ready, willing, able aiming. And this is the anchor lesson for that. Each grade also has an anchor, then all the supplementals. So these are just three of the, or these are the three sixth grade anchors. And then we have really built out sixth grade this year compared to what it was last year. So that's pretty exciting for the coming years. And seventh and eighth grade have, I think, about 5 or 6 anchors total. So for the last one for self advocacy for sixth grade is the inspirational quotes. So, what we try to do is have them be able to really relate to somebody famous that they look up to, a YouTuber. Like a lot of middle schoolers now think that's like the whole thing. They don't always know, celebrities as well, like we would know when I was younger, like movie stars and whatever else. So, they get to go and look up different quotes from famous people they look up to, and then they get to identify that as to like how they can see the developmental and their mindset based on the quote they found from their person they look up to. So it's just another way to see people in like real life who they might actually aspire to be and connect that way and be able to advocate for themselves. For seventh grade now, this changes a little bit as to what they should be supported to do. So for they need to be able to engage in a self-reflection and envision a positive future. For planning, they will be then exploring their career interest. And then for self-advocacy, they can understand a growth mindset. So for each of these anchors, they will link to a separate a separate benchmark across them. You can go to the next one. For seventh grade, What's Your Marshmallow is a really popular one we have. It is basically where if you have seen any, it was What's Your Marshmallow now it's kind of evolved on TikTok where they have children who have to have candy and you try to have them, if you go away, they can't eat the candy, and then if they don't eat it, you can get another piece when you get back. So it's been like another popular trend has come around. It's really trying to be the delayed gratification that we're trying to get students to understand what that is, how that relates to them. So they will each have like a worksheet where they get to write on your marshmallow. Like maybe somebody will say, my marshmallow is procrastination, and they'll say 3 examples of how they procrastinate. So it really gives them like a real time example of how, instead of delaying gratification, how they can get it more instant instead of, or I should say, how they can appreciate delayed gratification instead of we need it instant. So that's a big one for this one. Our next one is called the identity pie chart. This is a very popular one as well. Students get to go and think of different parts of their identity. They make a list of saying how not just their looks, but like their family, what they do, their hobbies, their teams. They have to think all these different lists of who they are, and then they put them into a pie chart and they can see how each asset actually creates their whole identity. So it helps them really think about like reflecting on who they are as a whole instead of one thing. Because in middle school, a lot of people, they play basketball. That's all they are. They don't think about how all their environment and their family and their, community really impacts who they are as a whole. So this is a good way for them just to start thinking about that early and really trying to understand the concept of identity. The last one for seventh grade is it's self-advocacy. You can understand a growth mindset. This one is brain science, and what the kids will get to do is they get to say who is the driver in their car for their name tag. So, some kids, I've had a girl, she said her name was Sassy. So she said because she felt sassy, she ended up making these different decisions, and that was controlling her brain, controlling her thoughts for that day. So, because it's all about the prefrontal cortex. And that's how, it is not fully developed yet. So they have to really think about how are they making these decisions in their school, in their life. It's just a cool activity to really get kids to understand more of like the science behind why they think about it and how they really are in control and can really process and make their own decisions more than sometimes, they think they can. So it's a pretty fun activity to get them starting to think about it. For eighth grade, this one definitely gets much more intentional for careers, for thinking about how you can translate all of these different things you've learned from the middle school framework into the high school. We really want this to be a great like a benchmark from middle school to the high school PACE framework. So for eighth grade, they should be able to explore barriers to aspiration and identify sources of motivation. For the planning, they should be able to complete a career cluster survey and attend a career exploration day. For your self advocacy, they need to complete a unit on education planning and develop a growth mindset. So all of these are really more intentional on their like high school planning and career college planning for the future. This one is called the Where I'm From poem. They read the poem on the screen, and then they will actually have their own paper where it has blanks that they fill in. So they get to say where they're from, how it translates into their motivations for life. It's a lot more like personal lesson. So a lot of times, like it depends how intimate the classroom is or how well the teacher knows their students because this can get pretty vulnerable. So we just say, it's great to have students really think about their motivations, think about where they come from and their strengths that come from that. But it's a great, it's a very popular lesson. A lot of students love it. It just takes a little bit more time, but it's a great different option to really see how they connect their culture, their life, their community from where they are now from where they were too. It talks about that as well. Nick needs help. This demonstrates a growth mindset and it has a support network. What this one is that there are multiple different like emails or these scenarios that students will read, and then they will have to pick how they should or shouldn't respond to what Nick needs help with. So they all get different ones. You split up in groups. There's multiple scenarios, and then as a class, you decide how should he react to that? How should you sort of respond in that scenario? So it really helps students better self-advocate and know, what and hear how their peers would also self-advocate. So it's a reflection piece as well. So yeah, that's a great one for the self-advocacy. Our next one is one of our most popular across the board. This is even used in high school. It's called Claim Your Future. It's a physical game, or you can do it strictly online, which is great. It's very versatile. Students will get these career wheels that you see on the screen, and the whole goal is for them to try to make a budget based on the career they get chosen or that you choose for them, and they cannot go under. So a lot of students, once they get one thing saying they're a doctor and they make, over 100 grand a year, they think they have all the money, but then you come in and realize, oh, you also owe 3,000 a month in student loans. You also have now this big house. Like it's very like realistic for them to see that, how much for one, how much schooling you have to have for certain careers, what realistically they can afford and what they can't afford. So it's a really great, it's a fun activity and it's a great lesson. And online, you can actually say you want the whole students are all interested in being like a nurse. Well, you can pull up just the nurse part and walk through it as a class together. So you can do it individually or it can be as like a group. So it's really great to get them thinking, to get them, to get them thinking, but also all of the career wheels are from the Illinois salaries. So it's not nationwide, so it is more specific. So that's nice because what you make here is not what you're going to make in New York or vice versa. So one of the last ones. Oh, I'm sorry. I know I'm coming up with my time. I'll try to be brief. This one is the career assessment planning, which actually gets you thinking about you have to understand what a career cluster is. So this is really how students think. Oh, like what type of jobs are in law, correction, security? Which ones are in finance? What are marketing? Like they really get to group what their interests are after they take an assessment, and that will help them get their career clusters to see what type of jobs based on their interests they would actually receive. And it's a whole activity with it, and then they can even do the career clusters like the beginning of the year and do it again at the end and compare to see have their interests changed, has they've not, have they been introduced to anything new. So it's a pretty cool one. The very last one for eighth grade is called the Money Minded Illinois. It's actually we partner with them, and it's a full I'm trying to think of the word. It's a full oh, it's another, what am I trying to say, Kim? It's another whole group of lessons and
Curriculum like modules and
curriculum.
curriculum.
Thank you. A whole modular. I was thinking of modular. It's a whole nother thing that you kids get to do, and it tells you all about finance. Each lesson has its own reading glossary. It has their own activities, so you can really break this up and do it by itself, or say you're doing like one on minimum wage. Well, you might want to take one of those lessons out and add that with the Claim Your Future. You can combine these ones to however would best work in your classroom, and then you can build out specific little things too as well. Since Minded Minded is its whole own like long form that you can do. And then next is how you actually can access the PACE. Kim, do you want me to go ahead with it?
Oh yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. What you have to do to access the curriculum is that there is an ISAC-led training. It's always a half day, normally like 8 to noon. Our training team from ISAC is the one who facilitates it. You will go there. You'll get a very thorough look of all the curriculum. You will get to have your own Ready, Willing, and Able book. You'll get to see all of that. Then after you go through it, we will ask you some questions for it. And then since you already did the training, you will then get the link from Kim, and we will be in touch with you for follow-up steps. There's different trainings throughout the year coming up. So if you do want to try to find when a training is near you or when one's coming up, you can join the ISAC e-messaging right there at the link, and it will give you information on when the next one's coming up. If there's anything else you need to add, Kim, that's totally fine.
No, thank you so much. We have our contact info here. If y'all want to shoot us an email about any of this, we can also let you know about any upcoming trainings. And then I also included our isac.org PACE link here because there are a ton of resources on there. Some of them are specific to middle school, but we've been doing customized high school frameworks with schools for a while. Any of our upcoming PD offerings will be on there. So if you're just curious about the other PACE resources that ISAC provides, this website will give a good overview of that as well. And that is all we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly and Kim. Really appreciate it. If only I could walk around with "Hello, I'm Sassy." No, little name tag all day. That can be my excuse. But I appreciated it. It's a really great deep dive into what we have in Illinois to help structure some middle grade CTE and some early sort of curricular ideas there. But next, I want to turn to Colleen Ross in LearningBlade for some free resources that middle schools all across Illinois have access to. So, Colleen, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, John. Hello, everyone. I'm Colleen Ross, Illinois manager for LearningBlade. I'm going to pull up my screen here as well, so just bear with me for one moment. Okay. Can you all see that on your screen okay? Excellent. I'm just reorganizing my screen here and okay, here we go. So thank you, ISAC, for that great introduction with the PACE framework. I'm so glad that we started with you guys because LearningBlade could be a great complement to the great work that they're doing at ISAC. So our curriculum really focuses on like STEM career exploration in particular. So again, so many of the skills and concepts and lessons that they cover would just fit really well like a puzzle with some of the resources we offer. But to start us off here with thinking about LearningBlade, I want everyone to think back to when you were in middle school. And how often did you sit in math class or science class and think like, when am I ever going to use this? What's the point of this? You know, what do adults even use this skill? Why am I learning this? And so our students today are really asking the same question. That's their $1 million question they want to know the answer to. But the difference is that they're making career related decisions earlier than ever. And also that so many of the careers they're going to step into in the future don't even exist yet. So we really need to get their creative juices flowing at that young age, so they can start to like connect the dots and think about how their academic skills are rooted in their future. So middle school is really that turning point. They're starting to form their identities, their interests, their motivation. Like I love that marshmallow experiment because that really gets them to start thinking about, you know, what do I need for my future? Not what do I need to get an A tomorrow, but what am I going to do to set myself up for success in my future? And really, we know that if students understand the why behind what they're learning, they're more likely to engage fully and lean into it as they're learning it. If the teacher can set up the why behind, again, that skill or that concept, the kid's going to be like, all right, this is going to be important. Let me learn this. As opposed to like disengaged, sitting back, not really understanding that why. And so for rural schools in particular, exposure to diverse career options is critical for our students. We want them to know about careers that exist in their own community without them even knowing about it. And we want our students to, all of our students, not to put themselves into boxes and start to think about, you know, oh, I'm a math kid or I'm not a math kid, but really how many options are there out there for them? And so we know based on the research we've collected that over 94% of middle school students are making career related decisions. Again, that's through electives they're taking. You know, are they engaging in a CTE course in middle school? Things like that are informing, you know, what kinds of jobs they're being exposed to. But also, what are they watching online after school? What is TikTok or YouTube feeding them that's impacting what they think it's like to be an adult with a job? So we just want to give them even more context at that middle school level, because we know they're making so many choices that could impact their future. We also say on my team, unofficially, kids can't be what they can't see. So we just want to expose them to opportunities they may not otherwise get exposed to. We want school to be a window to the world for them. And so again, we're focusing in on STEM in particular with LearningBlade, but we'll expand out from there as well. So while we're preparing students for their future in STEM, we have so many students reporting that they are not interested in pursuing STEM careers. A lot of that is just a lack of understanding of how diverse the world of STEM is. There's a gap in the supply of STEM professionals. It's not keeping up with the demand of STEM jobs. And again, there's so many STEM careers out there that don't even exist yet. Our kids in middle school right now will create those opportunities for themselves. So starting to help students see themselves in different STEM pathways is critical, to, again, address that workforce demand in STEM in the future and really just let them know what opportunities are out there. We want them to know that STEM is not just coding or labs, it's about solving problems in the real world. And early exposure is not just about that workforce readiness, but also about equity and addressing that workforce or that's underrepresentation in STEM. We want all of our students to feel like they're being prepared for a future in STEM should they choose to pursue that. So we really, at LearningBlade, our resources are, as I will get into in a few moments, completely free and accessible to all students, all educators in Illinois, because we're really just trying to make STEM more accessible and more equitable, and open up those STEM careers for all of our Illinois students. So it's really an investment in the potential of or in the future of Illinois, I should say. So transitioning more now into LearningBlade, how do we make that kind of real world career connected learning doable? We know teachers are very busy. We know they have a lot of resources to pick from. And so with LearningBlade, we're really trying to give teachers just ready-made, interdisciplinary, easy to plug in lessons that can introduce students to STEM and career exploration in STEM in particular. We don't want teachers to have to reinvent the wheel by any sense of the word. So it's LearningBlade's resources and lessons, online and offline, are really just designed to be supplemental and slot right into what you're already teaching. And so, whether you're a math teacher or a STEM teacher or a CTE teacher, or you run a club after school, it's all accessible to you. It's really a treasure chest that teachers can pick and choose from and plug in what makes the most sense to them. So through our resources and lessons, students will get to explore over 100 different careers in STEM and technologies, while also practicing English language arts, social studies, science, math, and coding standards as well. Plus, fits into every budget because it is free again. So I will hammer that home, not trying to sell anyone anything. It is just accessible, and everything you see, everything I show you, everything I talk about comes with this resource. So what we do is we frame our lessons through mission-based learning. So we're exposing students to real-world challenges, like designing robots that save people in emergency situations, or designing better prosthetics, or improving community infrastructure, keeping our data safe online. So real-world challenges that some will feel close to home for students. Some will feel like challenges they see in their own community, and that might help them lean in their own community and try to be that problem solver. And I love what Isaac mentioned about self-advocacy as well. It could inspire some of those skills and again, fit in well with those lessons. But some of our missions too will help students kind of zoom out and get that global perspective on what are challenges being faced around the world. Even if I don't see this on a daily basis, my skills, my talents could help solve that problem in the world someday. So I am, an important person, and I need to keep investing in myself. So what makes us unique is covering a breadth of different topics and career clusters, again in STEM, expanding students' view of what STEM is. We know that business and finance, for example, are STEM careers, but our students don't always think about it that way at that middle school level. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, what kind of STEM skills do you need in order to set up your clothing business or any kind of business company, whatever you want to create? STEM skills will go into that, even, all the way down, everything in between, like nurses and doctors, what kind of reading and writing skills do they use on a daily basis, things like that. And so that is really why we take that interdisciplinary approach. And sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. There we go. So all of our missions have been designed with kids in mind. So we've really tried to make them highly engaging and interesting for them. A couple more I like to point out. Building submarines is one. We have a huge submarine manufacturing sector in the state of Illinois, over an $8 billion industry. Tiny little submarine components are built all across the state. And so that is an opportunity that exists for our students in high-tech submarine building that they may not otherwise know about. But we also have heart surgery and flu outbreak as sort of a health science mission, entrepreneurship, again, for our future entrepreneurs, hack attack and rescue robots have that sort of tech focus. So there's something for everyone, and it can plug in classrooms in many different ways. So in addition to the quick online lessons where we introduce students to the context behind the careers and technologies that fit into those missions, we also have a wide range of supporting materials that kind of help teachers dig in a little deeper with their students and take their learning offline as well. So we've got project-based learning activities for students, hands-on projects, and all of these are designed to use repurposed materials or recycled materials. So we don't want schools to have to go out and buy any extra supplies or equipment. We're having you use your paper towel rolls, pencils, tape, and those CDs that are collecting dust somewhere in the school, and we're going to build a car out of it. And then for the teacher, we're setting up some discussion questions that you can add on and some experiments that your students can do with that car that they built. So very simple, but exciting hands-on projects for students where they feel like they're really getting to practice some of those skills that they're learning about through the lessons. We also do have 3D print files for more hands-on learning. We've got papercraft figures, which are cute little Minecraft meets origami representatives of the professionals. And then parent engagement activities. That's one of my favorite resources we have. This is a resource that can be sent home to engage families in the career exploration conversation and empower families with questions that they can follow up with their student on. Like I mentioned that, so many careers don't exist yet that our students will be doing. There's new careers that our parents didn't have the option to pursue when they were, graduating and thinking about what was next. So the parents may be like, I love that idea for you, kid, but I don't know how to get you there because I don't even know what that career is. And so what we do is set parents up with some more background information, some research they could dive into as a family, some home lab experiments they could do. But really, again, just trying to empower and engage families in that conversation. So each one of our missions has a similar structure. I'm going to use our fresh food mission as an example here. What we do is we introduce students to the mission through tools and teammates. So tools are what you see in orange and teammates are what you see in green. And so these are the technologies, skills, and people you would pull in to help you solve that real world challenge. The interdisciplinary lessons mirror how work happens outside of school. So we know that no engineer uses only math on a daily basis, and no microbiologist uses only their science skills. Everyone's pulling in a blend of reading, writing, data science, analysis, collaboration, communication, all of that is going into their career. So that's why we're having students examine these topics from different angles, from different perspectives, so they can see really the context behind how all their academic skills kind of fit together that way. So again, we're helping them answer that question of like, why are we learning this? If you've got a kid that's like, I'm pretty set on being a vet, so reading is not really my forte. I'm not really going to lean in during ELA class. Well, here's how, a veterinarian might use those reading skills and analyzing research that they collect, things like that. So you do need to pay attention in ELA class and really lean in because this is how that skill might collect or connect to your future. So the missions can be used in a variety of flexible ways. It looks like a lot of content, and it can be. If schools are looking for more robust study into this fresh food mission, for example, they've got 8 to 10 hours of lessons, only the online lessons for students. So that doesn't even include any of the offline project-based learning activities. But I work with a lot of teachers who are like, I don't have time to do this whole mission. This is too much. I'm just looking for something supplemental. I'm just looking for career exploration, things like that. And teachers are able to just pull certain lessons, certain topics that best complement what they do and have students work on those lessons and scrap the rest. So it can be used, again, in a very robust way down to a very minuscule way, whatever looks like, however it can best supplement your classroom. So we're really trying to shift students from like abstract academic skills without context to providing that context for those academic skills, boosting their engagement and really preparing them for, choosing classes in high school, choosing CTE pathways they may want to pursue and really being exposed to different post-secondary options, like our friends at ISAC had mentioned as well. I have not yet mentioned, but this is very important to note. Our lessons, like I mentioned, are interdisciplinary, but they're standards aligned for grades 5 through 9, the Illinois academic standards, as well as we're aligned to the national CSTA standards for computer science as well. And so we're used in many different classrooms. I work a lot with STEM teachers and CTE teachers with standalone classrooms where they can pull these resources right in and plug them in. But I also work with a lot of math teachers, science teachers, even ELA social studies teachers that want to make that career connection in their classroom. And so they can rest assured that they're having students practice the standards covered in their classroom as well. And so here, I won't go into it all again, but this is our hack attack cybersecurity mission, but you can see here the different spread of tools and teammates that students will be exposed to and kind of how they are similarly structured. And last but not almost second to last, we have the impact of LearningBlade. So many of you are probably wondering, like, why have I never heard of this before? Where did you come from? What is this? We've been around for over a decade. Really, our specialty is finding full funding for all educators and students in a state. So we just secured that full funding in Illinois this past school year. So 24-25 was our first year in Illinois schools. And so that's probably why you haven't heard of us before if you haven't. But that's all to say, again, we've been around, we're tried and true for over a decade. And what we do is we often turn on a survey for students before they start LearningBlade and then after they do some LearningBlade. And what we have found is a significant increase in students recognizing that what they learn in school will be useful later in their life. They report that they recognize math is important in solving problems. They're more interested in taking advanced math or science classes in high school when they're exposed to LearningBlade at the middle school level. So we're just seeing more of an engagement in STEM and also students being able to see themselves in STEM careers more readily. Another common question I get is, how is this free? What's the catch? There's no catch. Essentially, the Navy's workforce development organizations, Blue Forge Alliance and the Maritime Industrial Base, are investing in the potential of our Illinois students to go into STEM careers. And so if some of those students then trickle into the advanced submarine manufacturing sector within the state of Illinois, that's great. But we also, again, we expose them to 95 other careers that also exist in our state that are available to students. So essentially, again, just they're investing in the potential of our Illinois students to add to that STEM workforce of the future. And so that is why they're providing this fully free, fully funded, all schools, districts, after school programs, clubs. I work with educators of all kinds and all different kinds of spaces, so it is really accessible to everyone. And finally, if you are interested in signing up for your free account, again, anyone who works even tangentially to education can have an account. You can just sign up to check it out and explore it and see if it's something that you want to share with others. The more the merrier. And the resource also comes with me as a resource. So I put my contact information here on the screen, but my favorite part of my job, other than doing webinars with lovely people like you, is training educators. So I do in-person professional developments for teachers, groups of teachers, individual teachers. That can look however you want it to look, but I can help get you set up, help you find resources that best supplement your instruction. A common question I ask teachers is like, what unit do you have coming up? Or like, what do you want to cover next? Or what did you not get to cover last year that you want to cover this year? And then I dig through all of our many resources and help you just find exactly what's going to best fit you in your classroom instruction. So I am also here as a resource for you. Happy to talk about STEM, happy to talk about career exploration anytime. Feel free to get in touch. And again, you are welcome to sign up for an account. If you even just want to check it out and see what does it actually look like on the platform. It's web-based. We do also connect with SSOs. So if you're looking for very seamless integration into your district, we can get that set up. But yeah, that's about it for me. I'm going to stop sharing here. Thank you all for your time and attention.
Thank you, Colleen. Appreciate it. I wish I looked half as cool as the little data science paper doll dude. It's like I don't look that nice when I'm doing my data science for this stuff. Well, I appreciate the three of you, Kim, Kelly, and Colleen, for sharing some ideas about how rural schools can really start structuring some middle school career experiences or even exploration here. So for the remainder of our time, I want to open it for questions and answers. So folks, in a second, feel free to hop off with anything or put it in the chat. But I think something just to get started, one of the lessons that the Rural CTE Project has learned by talking with rural teachers and rural CTE teachers across the state is that they understand there's a lot of great resources out there, but what they really need is sort of a role model or a case, right, to show how to implement this. So I guess for the three of you, what would you say is like an ideal use case that you've come across or an example of your tools being used in a rural school? So I'll let whoever wants to go start with that one.
I can go ahead. I mentioned a couple different times about our Illinois Gear Up grant. That's a little bit different because as being included in that grant, schools are required to give a certain amount of instruction to students and things like that. But we were grateful that we had schools that were super interested in providing it as a class, even though that wasn't necessarily our idea. We started building out that content. So I think having a quarterly class was great. It's kind of how we got to the point of having as much content as we do now. But I don't necessarily think that has to be the way that it's implemented. I think getting through those anchor lessons and really just kind of reviewing our curriculum and seeing what those core concepts are and really working through those with students, and especially at the middle school level, defining those terms and just getting the ball rolling on those things, I think is ideal for us. And even if it's once a week, I think that those kind of concepts and those lessons we found do tend to stick with students, and they remember those things. So, and then having some consistency between grade levels, I think is important too.
Thanks.
John, this question is really hard for me to answer because every school makes LearningBlade look different in their school. But just off the top of my mind, a couple really cool models I've seen. I work with a school outside of Peoria. I don't know how specific I'm allowed to be, but anyways, it's a great rural school, a lot of alignment between their junior high and their high school. And they were looking for even more alignment between their different content area classes. So what they've decided to do is assign a mission for each one of their grade levels, maybe a few a year. But then, so for example, maybe their seventh graders are doing the car manufacturing mission, and the math teacher will take just the math lessons out of that mission and have their students work on that. So again, it's very bite-sized and manageable for that math teacher who just has like one math lesson per tool and per teammate. Really shortens it for them. And then so on, science, the ELA teacher takes the ELA, social studies takes social studies. So that way the students are still, they see how their teachers are working together, because every time I go to, my different academic class, I'm still learning about this topic. And so that is a really cool model that I've seen. But I also work with a lot of teachers who just, maybe LearningBlade has a home in one classroom in their school. Maybe it's the CTE class, maybe it's the STEM class. But then I work with that teacher to build this up to, again, whatever model is most engaging and interesting for their students. So it can look any kind of way, but just to note, I've seen, like I said, some schools where all the teachers are using it, and I've seen schools where I work with schools where just one teacher is using it, and both are great approaches.
Okay. Good deal. Well, with that, folks, feel free to come off mute, ask any questions, any thoughts you have. We also welcome reactions. So anything you are curious about or want to share.
I have a question for Colleen, possibly. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
It's when you say that the missions can be lengthy, but then you can pull out just individual pieces for.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is there a starting point? Like, what would you know?
No. With the missions, you can go in any order, and you can take just specific lessons that, again, best supplement maybe other resources you're using. It's common for teachers to just pull out the career exploration resources and lessons for students. And so they would hold up just fine without the context of the greater mission. I did not highlight these, but we also do have standalone coding and AI foundational courses, so they're not mission-based. And in those cases, we would want you to go in order and not skip any lessons, because the knowledge builds on itself. But in terms of all of our missions, again, you can go in any order and you can take anything out and it will just hold up fine.
Okay. Thank
Does
you.
that answer the question? Yeah.
Yep. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious what kinds of careers you all are hearing in your classroom spaces, your education spaces. What kinds of careers are students reporting that they're interested in? Get a lot of TikTokers, YouTubers, influencers.
Professional athletes, influencers, yes. game developers, performers. Yeah. I guess I taught middle school science for 22 years and then moved over to a careers class. And it's a 9-week careers class for both 7th and 8th grade. And I think the biggest shock for me was kids not having an answer in even thought in their mind of what they might want to do in life. Even what job have you ever seen out there that you think might be enjoyable or fun, or you might think of trying? So crickets with over half of the population, half of the kids, and I see about 400 kids a year. That was a shock, and really was the whole, wow, this is important. I was just a little blindsided by that, and I had been in middle school for over 20 years.
Based on that, I'll add that Kelly mentioned our Claim Your Future game. I think if you have a lot of students who are in that position, which are a lot of students, playing the game with the actual wheels, it's something for them to kind of really work with. It really gets them to thinking about those things. And then the kits themselves are 50 wheels. The online version has 150 careers, I believe.
Mm.
Those kits are free to order. I can put the link in the chat for any school district in Illinois. We partnered with the Finance Authority of Maine to create those kits, and we do use them within the curriculum, but educators can order those to be delivered to schools around the state as well. So I'll put the link to where those can be ordered in the chat.
I have been using that for a couple of years. I attended probably 3 years ago a CTE conference. I can't remember if that one was in Springfield or Bloomington, but they've enjoyed that, and I've used them both with the wheels and online.
That's great. Awesome.
Any other thoughts or questions, folks?
Not so much a question, but just hearing the resources, it sounded like they would be really helpful and can integrate together. Not only LearningBlade starting so early, but also going into the other programs as well from ISAC. So I think that they will work really well together.
Yeah. Brian? I guess just a general question that I ask everybody that I talk with in this line of work, trying to support rural districts, you have to recognize that there's just certain very difficult realities, shortage of educators, shortage of funding, resources. So from your professional line of work and even just your own personal experience and careers, what advice would you give to rural districts, given all the different challenges, to overcome those barriers to help grow their career exploration or even just sort of self-awareness efforts with students?
John, I would jump in and share. Excuse me, Dan Whistler, high school science teacher in rural school in Kansas, work with John on the CTE project. One of the things that can help support rural education is building a network. Sometimes you feel like you're on an island. One teacher may be the science department. So making those connections with other teachers in the district other teachers in the area, and building again that network of support, sharing ideas. The other part, I now work with Train, building those industry partners, bringing the local community in. There's experts that are in the community, and that's the real world application that really connects and engages students.
Yeah.
Something I'll mention that we do after attendance at our in-person training, where then you can access the curriculum, are quarterly meetings where we do just that and get those who have attended the trainings together. Since the curriculum implementation is so flexible, we want the educators and facilitators that are using it to hear from each other. And it seems like every time we get the quarterly meetings together, people are really hearing different ideas that they may not have thought of before. I know one of the main ways that the curriculum has started being used is in like enrichment classes, which tend to be a little shorter portion of the day. Those are mentioned quite a bit on our quarterly meeting. So we intend to pick back up with those this fall. And again, we'll have those in-person training dates soon. You would receive the curriculum from me, and then you would receive follow-up communication from Kelly about when those, it's a virtual quarterly meeting where we just get together and share ideas. So
Nice. All right. Feel free to jump in with any other thoughts. I'm going to reshare my screen just as a final little bit here. Any other questions folks have? I don't mind being interrupted. Just a thank you to everybody who's jumped on today for listening to what I think, and I think we all sort of sense and feel is an incredibly important part of, just people becoming people, and our schools, and especially our rural schools, as that institutional avenue by which we find ourselves, find our place of belonging and becoming. And in a rural area in particular, with the community connections they have, it's really easy to then sort of slot yourself into your next steps after school. So just thank you for tuning in today. This QR code takes you to the Rural Illinois CTE Project's page where all of our research and technical assistance is found, as well as ways to stay in touch. And so just looking forward, some things that I want to let everybody know about is, again, this is the first of a series of quarterly webinars. So other topics to look forward to coming up, we are going to be talking about AI. We will have one on sort of community college partnerships, and hopefully we have one on sort of local workforce relationships as well. How do you find industry partners and bring them into the school, and good ways to work with them there. Some other things that we will have coming up are also some white papers that really deep dive research into some of the core topics with CTE. And I'm super excited that within a few weeks here, we'll have our second full annual research report that catalogs all of the challenges and opportunities currently present in rural career tech ed classrooms. So with that, I'm going to throw in the chat the form link once more. If you signed in for the PD, I was informed that you also must sign out. So click the form link again, and you can go through that process to check yourself out when you're ready to go. But other than that, I will keep the room open for a few more minutes yet here for any other questions folks have. But again, thank you so much, and I'm glad folks could tune in.
thanks, everyone.
So if you've stuck around, that means that we love this topic so much that we want to keep talking about it. So let me know what you think. And Kim, Kelly, Colleen, thank you guys so much for jumping on here too and doing this with me. I know it's a little kooky first start, but I'm so glad that you three were the first sort of rural CT web series for this year. So
Glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity and for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yes, this was great. And I think the content we presented really fit well together. I think we knew that, but hearing it was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
glad to hear it.
Awesome. Have a great night, everybody.
I jumped in late, but we'll just share thanks for what you're doing. Rural schools, again, teachers, when you have 5, 6, 7 preps and then you're coaching on top of it, time's the most valuable asset. So what you guys are providing makes a huge difference. So thank you.
It's great to hear. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Dave, I see your camera's on. Any final
John,
thoughts?
thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
No, I really don't have any thoughts. I was just trying to save to my laptop some of the information, so that's why I was still on. And I'll be in contact with you I really think this was great information, and I would like to see all of my CTE teachers have this. So I'll talk with you. Maybe Wax will provide a stipend for those educators that want to review the recorded information that you have. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about the Claim Your Future game kit and what we need to do to get knowledge out there that's available for those that are interested. So
Sweet.
I think that would be a good career uh, exploration opportunity. So all right, with that, I'm gone. Thanks,
All right.
John. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Dave.
So
Nice
much.
to see you. Alrighty, guys. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I appreciate it.
You.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Bye.